So ever since Glenn Youngkin beat Terry McAuliffe, the issue of CRT, critical race theory, has been front and center when it comes to the culture war. And so now you have in New Hampshire, there's this anti-CRT bill that's been crafted by Republicans. And they really mess up here because they give up the game as to what this CRT stuff is really about. Now, there's a story that came out recently about there's a woman who saw that their kid was learning some stuff about Martin Luther King Jr. and the quotes, and she called the school to complain and said, I want you to stop teaching this critical race theory to my kid. So now the civil rights movement and talking about Martin Luther King is critical race theory? That's what you're going to call critical race theory. So in other words, you just don't want any information, any facts about the civil rights movement or liberation movements to be included in teaching American history because why? Probably because on some level they were against it all along. Okay, that's one story which was insane. Look at the nature of this bill from New Hampshire Republicans. Meet New Hampshire's new anti-critical race theory bill. Teachers' loyalty, prohibition added. The highlighted portion says, no teacher shall advocate communism, socialism, or Marxism as a political doctrine or any other doctrine or theory which includes the overthrow by force of the government of the United States or of this state in any public or state-approved school or in any state institution. So, now, to be fair, they say no teacher shall advocate communism, socialism, or Marxism. So, now I would submit to you there's definitely a difference between advocating it and just teaching about it. But my guess is, are they really going to be so specific and so nuanced as to say you're teaching about socialism or Marxism or communism and that's okay versus this teacher is promoting it and that's not okay? My guess is any talk about socialism, communism, or Marxism is just going to be a no-go. You're not allowed to do it. Well, then you're not really educating people, are you? If you're saying, we don't like these concepts, so don't talk about it at all. That would seem to me to be deeply against academic freedom and also freedom of speech. But it gets worse. No teacher shall advocate any doctrine or theory promoting a negative account or representation of the founding and history of the United States of America in New Hampshire public schools, which does not include the worldwide context of now outdated and discouraged practices. Such prohibition includes but is not limited to teaching the United States was founded on racism. Okay, so now you're just taking a stand against historical facts. Now, I'm not saying the U.S. was only founded on racism, but you can't deny that was a big part of what we were founded on. You can't deny it. It's just a fact. Whether it's the Native American genocide, whether it's slavery or Jim Crow. I mean, for fuck's sake, we had a 3/5 compromise in the Constitution saying that black people count as 3/5 of a person. Are you going to claim that's not racism? Are you going to claim many of the Founding Fathers didn't have slaves? Of course they did. But, guys, again, no teacher shall advocate any doctrine or theory promoting a negative account or representation of the founding and history of the United States of America. So what does that mean? All the negative parts, not allowed to talk about it. This is literally the most anti-intellectual, anti-freedom of speech, anti-accuracy position anybody could take. Because, guys, both things matter. The good things about America matter, but also the negative things matter. And I mean, what? We can't talk about the nuking of Japanese civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? We can't talk about Japanese internment? We can't talk about slavery and Jim Crow and Native American genocide? We can't talk about the illegal and offensive war in Iraq, which killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians minimum? We can't talk about the torture that was carried out by the Bush administration? Now, again, look, I care about all of the information. So I also care about talking about the civil rights movement, which was wonderful. I also care about talking about the First Amendment and case law history of free speech in this country, which is wonderful. I care about talking about the Marshall Plan. So I want to talk about everything. I want to talk about all of the facts about our history, the good and the bad. Give me all of it. Donald Trump is as American as apple pie, and so is Martin Luther King Jr. What they're saying is you're not allowed to talk about anything negative or portray anything in a negative fashion. Well, that is just disgusting, rank propaganda. And if this was coming out of a textbook in Iran or a bill in Iran or Russia or China, you would say this is the most grotesque, comical, cartoonish propaganda I've ever seen in my entire life. And you'd be correct to say that. So all this CRT moral panic, they're really giving away the game here. Because it's not just about, look, we're against racial sectarianism and we're against calling all white people racist or whatever. That's when you put lipstick on the pig, you could say, well, that's what the concern is about. But very clearly, if you look at the text of the bills that are popping up around it, it's not about that. It's about don't say anything bad about the U.S. We believe in American exceptionalism, which is just another term for American supremacy. So we believe we're better than the rest of the world. Bury all the negative stuff about us. Bury all the negative facts about our history. Only play up the positive stuff about it. And we don't believe in freedom of speech. We don't believe in academic openness. And don't you even talk about other political and economic ideologies. Probably because they feel threatened by them and they don't have any substantive rebuttals to them, by the way. So, I mean, this is really brazen, and everybody should be against it. And it's such a colossal overreach. And unfortunately, there's not going to be much talk about it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.